Hey everyone, it's Cappy. Welcome to a special end-of-season series of Beyond the Plate, brought to you by our friends at PepsiCo Foods. Over the years, we've brought you memorable conversations and stories shaping today's food culture. This series is no different. We're joined by the members of PepsiCo Foods' first ever Culinary Advisory Board. From chefs and authors to food scientists and entrepreneurs, PepsiCo Foods has brought together 6 industry-leading culinarians, and I have the privilege of being one of them. Together, we serve as strategic advisors to help further the culinary journey at PepsiCo Foods, working to inspire new ways for people to experience PepsiCo's iconic food brands and bring more smiles to the table. In each episode of the series, we're going to uncover how this initiative can impact the food industry and how each advisor contributes their unique culinary expertise. Please enjoy this episode as we go beyond the plate with PepsiCo Foods U.S. Culinary Advisory Board member, Ellen Bennett. Ellen, tell us something we don't know about you and your culinary career.
That when I lived in Mexico City, I went and worked at a tiny little shop called a fonda, where I was learning from these little old ladies. And it was some of the funnest cooking I've done because they were cooking mass volumes of really homey meals every day for hundreds of people coming in and out. And they had 30 minutes to serve them the app, the main meal, the dessert, and just watching these ladies churn it out and have their own little business was really fun. And it's a very different vibe from working at Providence, a 2 Michelin star restaurant. Here, this was like flavor and love and like really wholesome hominess, and Providence is all about flavor, but definitely not wholesome hominess. So that was a fun little variation to my life here in LA.
So cool. That's awesome. When you first got the ask to be part of this inaugural Culinary Advisory Board, what went through your head?
Oh my gosh, I'm so curious to hear what everyone else said. I was like, whoa, what? That is really interesting and kind of cool. Like it stopped me in my tracks in a good way. I always respect and appreciate when a brand thinks off the beaten path and when they approach something not following what everyone else is doing, but sort of forging their own journey. And I feel like that's what PepsiCo Foods did here, where they said, we're on a mission to become a food brand. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And we're not just going to listen to ourselves in our own echo chamber. We're actually going to go out and tap people that are industry leaders in their own way. And I think the group that they put together is such an awesome combo of energy, background, expertise, chef backgrounds, not chef backgrounds. Like the combo pack is really quite special. It's like a bag of Sour Patch Kids. You don't know which one you're going to get. It's pretty cool. And it's flavorful and dynamic and fun. And just from our first meeting in Plano where they brought us all together, I was like, whoa, there's something really kinetic and awesome and dynamic about what's happening here. And it's really unique and special. So mega kudos to them for making it happen.
Yeah, totally. Great answer. I love that. What would you say you bring to the table, so to speak? Like, what can we expect? I know what I can expect from your involvement, but what can we expect from your involvement?
What can we expect from my involvement, Cappy? I'm going to ask you, what do you think?
You're going to turn the tables. Here's what I can expect from you. I mean, just watching your collaborations alone, like in your life and with your business and with your brand, I would love to see some of those brought to life within this Culinary Advisory Board project or projects.
Yeah. I mean, thank you. I really love teaming up with people, and I love having 2 different worlds collide in a way that feels like, ooh, these are my 2 best friends and now they're dating, and I get to see and be a part of that magic that would only happen with those 2 units coming together. And so I'm excited to bring that to the table for sure. And we've done so many different collabs and partnerships in Headley and Bennett land. I've just seen all the different ways that it can go down, and I'm happy to bring that over here. I don't know, as a Mexican woman, right, raised by a Mexican mama, I'm so pumped to bring that perspective to the table and just have that diversity of view of the world, right? Like I grew up in LA, but I lived in Mexico City for 4 years. I went to culinary school there. I grew up going to Tampico, Tamaulipas and getting to run around the streets of Mexico barefoot playing soccer. Like that's a different POV. And I think, the group did such a great job of assembling lots lots of different perspectives, and you get magic when you get different views. So just seeing us all sit in the room and hearing how we approach the same question very differently is fun. And I feel like not only am I getting to be a part of this awesome group, but I also am learning a ton along the way too, in my own right.
Yeah, that's so cool. You talk about like collabs and partnerships, and I talk about that a ton in like my philanthropic world, like the power of partnerships. Like, why wouldn't two philanthropic organizations that do similar work partner up to just make that work so much bigger and more powerful? And you do such a good job of that, like in the business, probably in the philanthropic world too, I can imagine, but also like just in your business world.
Yeah, and you know what? It's actually a pretty like just genuine approach. It's always like, okay, each party has to bring something very unique and special to the table. And if that magic and synergy isn't there, like we shouldn't even be having a conversation. It should never be done for the purposes of just like air quotes marketing. It needs to have a backbone and a why, right? Like us tag teaming with Crocs to make a shoe was awesome because we don't make shoes. We make aprons and really legit culinary workwear. So to team up with a shoe brand makes it rad because we get to tap into their supply chain. They get to tap into our ecosystem. We get to bring our communities together that are like-minded and want functional gear. And then Bob's your uncle, you have a cool collab.
So awesome. So I've been talking with some of the other Culinary Advisory Board members about the media launch dinner in New York. And just, I've been talking about that dinner literally like on a weekly basis since then, just because I feel like I demolished every plate that was put in front of me. But I would love for you to talk about your dish because you had this like delicious striped bass, and I would just please share it with everyone listening, like what that dish was. It was so fun.
Yeah, I wanted to marry my two backgrounds, right? So like Providence, 2 Michelin star level cooking, a lot of seafood, right? And so striped bass, we're on the East Coast. I felt like it was just appropriate to go there. It's such a beautiful piece of fish. It's such a beautiful fish. And honestly, the way whatever you put it with, it's going to be magical, and it just like elevates it. It's like caviar. You just like can't go wrong with striped bass. It's so beautiful. So I'm definitely bullish about using striped bass in my life. So I took striped bass and then I incorporated chayote. And chayote is this really awesome, I don't know, how do you describe it in English? It looks like a pear, but it's green, and it is typically used in soups and broths and beef stews, things like that. And it's a pretty like everyday veggie in Mexico. You don't really see it that much in the US. And so I wanted to marry the two worlds. And so we ended up confying the chayote into little round discs, and we put it under the striped bass. And then we did a mojo de ajo on top. So it's like a delicious garlicky magical sauce that's bright and acidic and just citrusy gloriousness. And that was on top of that. And then I took Tostitos and we made this like crispy, crunchy situation on the outside of the fish to add a little crunch. So what I did was we created this avocado crema that was super delicious, bright, acidic, and we incorporated Tostitos salsa verde into it and blended it up, which is full of tomatillos and really delicious flavors that I love from PepsiCo Foods. And we put that in there. And so we served the fish with the mojo de ajo, the chayote, and a side of the avocado crema. And honestly, I was super happy with how it turned out.
I'm reminded I did a podcast episode recently with a chef who was talking about, I was asking him more in depth about his point of view of food. And he was saying, he's like, I season every ingredient. He's like, that's how I look at food. And then like all those ingredients and components come together.
Yes, totally.
And I feel like that's how this dish was for me. Like that avocado crema, I could have just eaten by itself or with 30 other types of dishes. And the little disc of the like chayote, so delicious. I could have put those with different dishes. Ellen, a lot of our listeners at home have PepsiCo food brands in their pantry. And I would love for you to give us a tip or unique way you feel people can incorporate them into their cooking.
Well, as a very Mexican household over here, I feel like I constantly have different salsas that I'm making. And when you make a fresh salsa from scratch at home, right, and then you just have like Tostitos in the pantry, it's a way to just put something on the table when someone comes over in a quick, delicious way. And it's fresh and it's vibrant. And I just love it. You know, my little boys, they love carne asada. And so, you know, I'll make a salsa. I have the Tostitos on the table. I'll get the Siete Foods almond tortillas and I'll put those on the table. And it's just like a really delicious, awesome meal that's quite simple to bring together. While I come from a fine dining background, I'm all about like healthy efficiencies in foods now, right? I'm like, I want it to be delicious and I want it to be not something that takes me forever to bring together. And I think that's kind of like where they're nailing it.
One last question or two. If you could only eat one PepsiCo Foods brand for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ooh, okay. I would say probably Ruffles, cheddar, and sour cream chips. They're so good. They really are. And yeah, I've had those since I was a little kid and I really, truly love them. Truly, truly, deeply in my heart.
What about if you could only use one in your cooking?
I could only use one in my cooking. Oh gosh, what did you say? What was your answer?
I don't know that I gave an answer. A couple people flipped the script on me. Was it Eric? Someone is like, what would you do, Cappy? I don't remember exactly. I think my answer was Fritos. And more specifically at the moment, I was talking about the Fritos honey barbecue twists. Because they're so good. I'm really into like figuring out how I can incorporate those into dishes that I make because the flavor and texture just like nails it for me.
You're right. Those are incredible. I also really love the chili cheese Fritos. Those are absolutely phenomenal. I have to give a shout out to Stacy's because I feel like something I love to do is have a charcuterie board spread when I have these Sunday suppers at my house on the weekends, and I'll just get a ton of beautiful ingredients like lots of different cheeses and dips, and then I'll also include a bunch of fruits and veggies from the farmer's market, and then you can sprinkle on the Stacy's pita chips onto the table in little clusters and piles next to walnuts and nuts, and next thing you know, you have this like beautiful spread that didn't take a lot of effort, but just looks and tastes awesome.
Wait, that makes so much sense. And I'm probably going to do that so soon because you think about it, you're always putting out some kind of cracker with like a brie or some cheese. I always do like a brie and like some kind of fancy jam or whatever. But why wouldn't I serve that with Stacy's? And even furthermore, skip the jam and put out like the cinnamon sugar Stacy's pita chips with brie. I feel like that could be a hit.
Yeah, like if you do that with a bowl of whipped cream, a bunch of strawberries, some blueberries, like that is awesome. You throw a little mint there. I mean, it's just, I love a fresh berry with whipped cream and the cinnamon situation. It's just too good.
Find Ellen on Instagram at Ellen Marie Bennett. Thank you for tuning in to this special series. To learn more about PepsiCo Foods, visit PepsiCo.com. Follow them on social media at PepsiCo. PepsiCo Foods, we thank you. This series was produced by myself, along with Ian Cohen, Joel Yetton, and Sean Petrosian. Find me and keep up to date with this podcast across all social media platforms at On Cappy's Plate or go to BeyondThePlatePodcast.com. Our digital media producer is Sarah McClellan-Mee. Our music has been composed by Goldford. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Plate. I'm Cappy, and remember, there are never too many cooks in the kitchen.